Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. I am Akshay Parmar, Assistant Professor at LG Institute of Engineering and Technology in IT/ICT department. Welcome back to the video tutorial series of the Internet of Things. In this today's session, we are going to discuss about the cloud for IoT, right? So you have heard term cloud, right? So which kind of functionality it is providing and what do you mean by the cloud, right? So we will satisfy all your questions in this particular today's session. So in this today's session, first of all, we are going to discuss about what do you mean by the cloud and what are the functionality it is provided by the cloud, right? And after that, we will discuss about the service models of the cloud computing, right? The software as a service, platform as a service, and the infrastructure as a service, right? So we are going to discuss about all that things in brief with a real life example too, right? So what do you mean by the cloud and what are the functionality, right? The cloud is providing, right? So cloud computing is the delivery of computing service over the internet. The cloud computing is an, right? So what do you mean by the cloud computing, right? So cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, right? It is the delivery of computing services over the internet by providing the flexible, affordable, effective and efficient resources for development, right? So here it is providing an resources for the development itself. So you have one question arise, which kind of resources it is providing, right? So that resources including that servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics and the intelligence tool, right? So the cloud is providing all of that resources for the development. The cloud computing provides an economical freedom along with technical strength to the application, right? So what do you mean by this, right? In other words, it is about to outsourcing of an IT services and infrastructure to make them available anywhere with the help of the internet, right? So here the particular developer do not need to purchase all that hardware and the basic infrastructure, right? Instead of that, it can use that particular service with the help of the cloud, right? The application logic that is running on the user's computer, right? So here on the user's computer, all that resources must need to be installed there, right? It is required, all that requirement is fulfilled at that local system itself, right? But whenever you are working with the cloud, right, so that your application logic is running on the cloud itself, right? So at that time you can use that particular cloud with minimal resources, right? And all that required resources which is running on the cloud itself, right? And the major advantage of the cloud is you can access that particular thing anywhere from the world, right? Anywhere from the globe itself, right? So cloud is given us a free hand to work with that. So you have one question arise on which service model that cloud computing is working, right? So mainly there are the mainly three service model of the cloud computing, right? So you are all aware about the infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and the software as a service, right? So that each of the model represent a different part of the cloud computing stack, right? Each type of the cloud service provides you the different level of the control, flexibility and the management, right? So the cloud as a clients, right? So here the web browser, the mobile application, thin client, the terminal emulator, all are the example of the cloud clients, right? So let's see the each of the service models example. For example, emails, virtual desktop, communication, and the games are the example of the software as a service, right? So here that software we are using as a service, right? After that, what if we are using only the platform for that, right? So at that time, the platform or the service is come into the picture, right? So executable runtimes, databases, web servers, and the development tools are the example of the platform as a service, right? So in that it is provided with the help of the cloud, right? And the third type is an infrastructure as a service. Here you are just using a basic infrastructure for your development, right? So the virtual machines, server, storage, load balancer, all are the example of that, right? So let's see each and everything with the one example, right? Let's take an example of the pizza as a service, right? It is quite interesting, right? So how can you enjoy your pizza, right? So to enjoy your pizza, you can make it your home. you can use the infrastructure of the anywhere. You can choose an delivery service also, or else you can go to the any pizza outlet and you can enjoy your slice of the pizza there also, right? So what is the difference of that? And in each of the case, what you need to manage and what the vendor need to manage, right? So based on that, you can bifurcate it all four types, right? The first of all, whenever you are making that pizza on your own home, right? So that is a traditional or the on-premise kind of structure, right? So that is kind of local system, right? So at that time, you need to manage all that thing from the dining table to soda, cheese, and all that raw materials, as well as the oven and the fire. Also, you need to manage that thing, right? So whenever you are making that pizza at home, you need to manage all that things, right? So you are managing all that things. After that, you are saying that I do not need to manage that particular oven and the fire, right? I do not need to manage that infrastructure, right? So at that time, that you are using in someone's infrastructure for that, right? So oven and the fire is managed by the vendor, but all that raw materials and the sitting arrangement you need to manage, right? So it is an example of an infrastructure as a service. In that you are using that someone's infrastructure only, right? Let's take an one step ahead, right? For an example, the pizza delivery, right? So this is the era of the Zomato and Swiggy, right? The food delivery systems, right? So with the help of that, you can get your slice of the pizza on your fingertips in the within a few minutes, right? So here you just need to select which kind of pizza you need to enjoy, right? You are going to enjoy, right? So based on that, you can order that pizza by your own, right? So at that time, you do not need to worry about the raw material as well as infrastructure such as oven and the fire, right? So it is already managed by the vendor itself, right? So whenever you are ordering them, it is coming into your doorstep. So you just need to manage that sitting arrangement and the refreshment with that, right? So dining table and the soda you are managing only, and the, all of the other things which is managed by the vendor itself, right? So you are here you are using its platform, right? So it is an example of the platform as a service, right? So let's take an one step ahead of it that you are visiting any pizza outlet and you are sitting there and you are ordering any kind of pizza whatever you want to enjoy, right? So from the sitting arrangement to the refreshment to the raw material and the oven, the fire, the basic infrastructure, all that things are managed by the vendor itself, right? You just need to enjoy your slice of the pizza, right? So that is an example of this software as a service, right? So here all that things are managed by the vendor itself, right? So here by this kind of example you can see that which kind of service we can provide it with the which kind of architecture, right? So let's take another real time example, right? So here let's take an example of the vehicle as a service, right? So first of all, you are owning your own vehicle, or here, or for example, on premises solution, right? So here you are owning your own vehicle. The infrastructure is your own. You are driving that vehicle by your own, right? So all of a sudden you are using all that thing by your own. You are managing all that thing by your own, right? But what if you are leasing that car, right? So at that time you just need to drive that car, but you do not worry about what are kind of infrastructure, what is the basic of that particular car, and you do not need to worry about things. You are just leasing that car, right? So at that time you need to concern about driving that car and fueling that car, right? So here you are using that just infrastructure for that, right? So that is an example of an infrastructure as a service, right? So in the example of the vehicle as a service. After that, you do not need to worry, you do not want to drive that car, or you do not need to worry about how to fuel that things, right? So at that time you can book a cab, right? You can have an taxi services, right? So here the basic services that they are providing a platform for that, right? So you just need to command that which path need to follow, and the driver will follow your path, right? So here you can book a cab and you can enjoy the platform as a service, right? But whenever you are using any public transport, right, so you do not have liberty to choose your own path, right? So you just need to follow that path whichever that particular bus is following, right? So at that time you are enjoying the journey, but you cannot justify your path, you cannot choose your path, right? But on which destination you want to reach. Yeah, you can choose your bus according to that, right? So by that you can use that software as a service, right? So that is a basic example of the vehicle as a service, right? So let's see the cloud as a service first of all, right? So which are the cloud services which are provided? First of all, let's see the traditional on-premises service or the local services. In that, the server, the storage, the networking, the virtualizations, the OS, runtime and the middlewares, and the data and the application, all the things we need to manage by our own, right? So in the local system, all the things are managed by the by you, right? So that is an example of the local system, right? But what if you are using an infrastructure of anything, right? So at that time you do not need to worry about these servers, storage, networking, and right kind of thing, right? So you are using an infrastructure of existing system, right? So you are using an infrastructure of the cloud, right? So we need to worry about the virtualization, OS, runtime, data, and application only, right? So here you are using you are managing that all that things, right? But the vendor is managing that basic infrastructure such as server, storage, and the networking, right? After that, whenever you are using any platform, right? So at that time, that server, storage, the networking, the virtualization, and the OS, and the runtime and the middleware are managed by the vendor itself, right? So at that time, you are using its platform for your application, right? So for building your application, you are using its platform and data and the application. That only thing you need to manage. Whenever you are working, you are using a platform as a service, right? And at the end, what if you want to use all that? What if you don't want to manage all that thing, right? So you can choose that software as a service kind of thing, right? So here, this from the application data to the server and the storage, all that things is managed by the vendor itself, right? So that's how that all that things, what kind of infrastructure and what kind of platform and what kind of software you are using and what kind of service you are using, it is and what kind of things you need to manage it, you can see with this simple example, right? So let's see the software as a service. Let's begin with an first type, the software as a service, right? So the complete software application as a service is provided to the end user, that is run and managed by the service provider or vendor itself, right? So here the end user do not need to worry about software upgradation and the manage and all that kind of things, right? All that things is managed by the service provider or the vendor itself, right? It can also be called an application as a service, and you can pay monthly or yearly, right? You can use your subscription with regards to your usage, right? After that, in the software as a service, user do not need to worry about the software upgradation and the management, right? That things is managed by the vendor itself. The common example of the software application is web-based email, where you can send and receive the email without having to manage the server that the email program is running on that, right? So that's how you can use its service, right? Without worrying about upgradation and the management kind of thing, right? You are just need to enjoy its services. After that, that is an about an software as a service. Let's see the platform as a service, right? It provides a development environment to the application developer, right? Application developers are using a platform, the development environment with the help of the cloud, right? So which kind of environment is provided by the cloud? The operating system, the programming language execution environment, database, web servers, development tools, APIs, library, all other things will be provided by the cloud service provider, right? So here the developer do not need to worry about all that things, right? The data and the application, that is the only concerning with regards to the developer, right? So user have to build, manage and maintain the application only. The application developers develop and run their software on the cloud platform instead of directly buying and managing that essential hardware and the software layers, right? So the application developer develop and run their software on the cloud platform, right? They do not need to buy any buy or manage that hardware things, right? Or the software things, right? So the example of the platform as a service are the Amazon Web Services, Lambda, Google App Engine, the IBM Cloud Foundry, Oracle Cloud Platform, Red Hat OpenShift, the Zoho creators, all are the example of the platform as a service, right? So here the developer are using that platform as a service, right? After that, the infrastructure as a service, right? The network administrators are using that network as a infrastructure as a service, right? The infrastructure as a service provides an access to computing the hardware, networking features, and the data storage spaces, right? The server and the storage, the networking, firewall, and the security, and the data center, the physical plants are included into the infrastructure as a service, right? Where the consumer is able to deploy and run the software, which can be include this operating system and the application, right? The consumer does not manage or control the underlying cloud infrastructure, but has control over the operating system, storage, and the deployed application, right? This service provides you with the highest level of the flexibility, right? So that's how you can enjoy the highest level of the flexibility, right? So that's about an infrastructure as a service, right? So that is a type, the platform as a service, software as a service, and the infrastructure as a service, right? So that's how you can enjoy the cloud with the IoT, right? So that's all about today's session. Thank you for the watching.